Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Rouge Rugby podcast. My name is Dan Murphy, and I just got Derek Brissett with me this week. But you know what, Derek, I'm very excited to talk to you. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about, some heartbreak, some excitement for the future. Squad was announced. A lot of things happened this past week.
Yeah, I mean, it was it's one of those weeks of what an unreal rugby weekend.
Holy moly,
Had
yeah.
the Super Rugby finals going on. We had the Lions squad announcement. We had like every single MLR game coming down to the 80th minute, decided by what was it? All of the games decided by like less than 4 points.
Yeah.
Total, like the
Within a
total
try.
like margin of victory was like 11 or some nonsense.
Yeah.
It was super low. Just it's the kind of the weekends. It's probably one of the best weekends the MLR has had, just as far as like game excitement. Every game came down to it. Obviously, you had the big Rooney over LA kind of upset too to add to that intrigue. And the Eastern Conference is just madness right
Insane.
now. It's absolutely crazy.
Well, I want to start with some congratulations first. I want to congratulate Canada's women's curling program.
Oh, okay.
So the World Championships wrapped up this weekend, and the team of Carrie Anderson, who won the Scotties this year, actually back-to-back champions, helped qualify Canada for the Beijing Olympics by getting herself into the playoffs. What is really impressive about them managing to make that happen is that at one point they were 1-5.
Oh, well,
And managed to pull their socks up. And Carrie and her team talked about this. Is actually really kind of sad, is that they had been and if anyone's not familiar with what's been going on with curling in Canada, is basically they have been working with the bubble in Calgary out of the Olympic Park. So Carrie, except for two tournaments, which were the men's Canadian Championship, the Brier, and then the men's World Championship, has been away from her family for almost 2 months. Like, she has been in the Scotties, the mixed doubles championships, which she also won with Brad Gushu. And so she's actually leaving like today to go to Scotland for those championships. She was in two, they're called the Grand Slams. So basically like a week-long tournament. So that was 2 weeks where she was away from her family. So just think about that. Like, you are gone from your family for like almost 2 months. And the worst part is like the Toronto Arrows get to go out into the Atlantic community. They get to go to baseball games. They're golfing. They're swimming in muddy rivers.
well, not anymore. There was the snake, right? So
not anymore because of the snake. That's true. These curlers were stuck in their hotel room. Like, they had a hard bubble. Like, they were not allowed to leave the hotel room except for their games. So they talked about how tough this was mentally for them. Not being able to see your family, not being able to talk to fans. The Brier and the Scotties are infamous for their parties, which curlers get to go and talk to the fans and have drinks with them and see live bands after their games and stuff like that and sign autographs. There's none of that this year. And so they felt really downtrodden going down 1-5, and they managed to turn it around and make the playoffs. And unfortunately, they lost to a very strong Sweden team that
it's always
qualified. It's always Sweden. I mean, that Sweden team is the reigning.
Oh, is it actually always Sweden?
Medal. It's always Sweden. Oh yeah, Anna, the team, Anna Hasselborg's team, is like the best in the world. Like, they won the last Olympic gold in Pyeongchang. So congratulations to Team Anderson. I don't know what the intersection of curling fans and rugby fans are with this podcast, but
well, I mean,
it's just another amazing story.
If it's big, we are the podcast for you. And if it's niche,
and you know what, we're actually going to talk about kind of mental health and bubbles and actually how it affects the Toronto Arrows later, because Brian Ray did an amazing interview with Lucas Rumball and Chris Silverthorne about this. And the Arrows are now, after their loss on the weekend, 3-5, and they are really feeling it. So we'll talk about that later, but I want to kind of get into some of the big news. And as you can tell by my sweater that I'm wearing today, I want to talk to you, Derek, about the British and Irish Lions squad. Who's surprised and who are you excited to see
Uh,
from this lineup?
I just want to know how sad you are that Johnny Sexton's not on the team.
Like, I love Johnny Sexton. I think he gets a little bit bad rep for complaining, which most captains and fly halves tend to do a lot of that. But you know what? I'm not shocked and I'm not upset that he's not on this team. I think that there are other fly halves that are a little bit more in form and also not injury prone. I mean, Dan Bigger got a little hurt in his game, so hopefully he's okay. But yeah, no, I'm okay with it.
Yeah,
They're like
bigger Farrell and Russell. It's pretty. I mean,
Finn Russell to me is the obvious choice. Like the guy's
he's
he's a
fun, man.
magician,
Yeah, he's fun.
and you put like I think what they're probably going to do is they'll probably put Owen Farrell at 12. So you've got kind of the more steady defensive minded, strong kicking game of Owen Farrell at 12. And then you got Finn Russell running around doing whatever the hell he wants. Like, I think that's just a fun combination. To me, the biggest thing that upset me is some of the decisions they made at lock. I'm really surprised to not see James Ryan in the squad. And you know what? Like I like nothing against like Johnny Hill. Like I think that maybe Ian Henderson maybe shouldn't have been picked. Like I think that James Ryan offers a little bit more than Ian Henderson does. Like and like thank God for Squidge Rugby. He made a really cool video about some of the decisions that they made. Like why they picked Bundyaki, Chris Harris, Elliot Daly. Like they definitely like had certain decisions that went with the game plan. But I look at Ian Henderson, a strong ruck arrivals, great in the set piece, especially in the lineouts. And I think what does he have that James Ryan just has had a little bit of bad luck with injury the last year, and
Could be it then.
I guess, but that just
You,
seems like a
you just
shame.
said you just said you didn't want Sexton because he gets hurt all the time, right?
Yeah, there's the difference between like a 24-year-old having bad luck and a 37-year-old who like I swear to God, he's probably like the Tin Man every time he hits the pitch. I wonder if you hear metal every time he moves.
I mean, lock on the Lions is tough though. Like if to crack. I mean, you already have like Alan Wynne Jones, Mero Itoje, Courtney
Yeah,
Lodge.
like
You got 3 spots are locked up no matter what you do, anyways, right? It's basically uncontested 3 lock spots. So
mhm.
I thought Sam Simmons making it, the chaos person in me likes that. That's funny. I thought that was funny. I was like Eddie Jones. I wish I saw Eddie Jones' reaction, like reading the squad list to see Sam Simmons. That's fun. Kyle Sinclair not making it and then putting in like one of the best games he's ever played in the Premiership or whatever immediately
Yeah,
after.
yeah, because
That's fun.
Andrew Porter, and they also picked Xander Ferguson, who I really enjoy watching Xander
Yeah.
Ferguson play. But I'm like, you're gonna pick those two guys over Kyle Sinclair? Like,
Yeah, they got Luke Cowan Dickey's been really good for
he's been really good. I mean, he kind of took in certain games the starting jersey
Jamie
over
George,
from Jamie George. Like,
all the well rested Saracens.
yeah,
Or the fresh Saracens coming off
yeah,
destroying championship teams now that they've actually settled into that league a little bit.
yeah. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting lineup. Like again, there's like things
That's
like Gareth Davies. Like, has he been really in fine form enough?
Luis
Jack Conan,
coming in though. He gets the
Louis Rezamet, that's exciting. I'm excited about Tag Byrne. Like, he is an absolute monster. I've thought more about Bundyaki. I'm okay with that decision. I hate not seeing Gary Ringrose, but I get why they picked guys like Elliot Daly over Gary Ringrose. They want versatility in their lineup. Um, so yeah, it's going to be really really interesting. But I thought that it was fun, and maybe we have to have Brian Ray on soon to talk about his the Wolverines article that he wrote, because that was pretty cool. I'd like to pick his brain about it, and maybe we can do something about that. But
a lot of American players on that though.
well, American players. Well, I mean, you can't
Makes me
really
nervous
blame them.
because they have to play them soon. So
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, Canada also announced their summer test series. Um, they have Wales on July the 3rd and England July 10th. The USA actually also plays on July the 3rd against England, and then they will also play Ireland, which I I think they played on the 10th as well, or maybe 11th. But how do we feel about these games being so close together at the start of the test window? We don't think we haven't gotten the official dates for the World Cup qualifiers for Canada and US.
It'll be
Um,
later though. Be after them.
Later, it'll be later in the summer, maybe start of the fall. Um, so they're going to play two high intense test series or test matches, and then have a month, maybe 2 month long gap.
Well, not really. Like you probably go back to MLR or whatever. So you know,
Yeah,
it's not like you're going to be off. I mean, at least the guys that are on playoff teams will go back to,
exactly. But and the
or
yeah, so
maybe
it'll really.
what's the time?
I
What's
mean,
the timeline? Like
the regular season goes until July the 18th.
July 18th. Yeah. So it's like,
So for the Arrows, they'll be missing players for their match against Old Glory.
well, you're probably missing more than that. I would imagine they're not just going to pick a squad.
Oh yeah, that's true. They'll have people. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Okay,
But
yeah, you're
but
right.
yeah, every team's going to be down a couple of guys.
Hmm.
For probably the most important stretch of the season, and um as much as like that is the thing. It's like on one hand, I'm super excited to see Canada and the United States, for that matter, take on legit tier one competition. England, Wales, and then for our friends south of the border, they get Ireland too. It is really cool. It's gonna be interesting to see how that impacts the MLR season, though, because you're gonna get
For sure.
basically every team will be without their some of their best players for a very important time in the season, especially in the Eastern Conference, where we have now seen over the first 8 weeks how tight that conference is.
Yeah,
So it's like, every game's going to be important. So, it might be one of those things where it comes down to, at the end of the season, maybe it'll be one of those things where maybe the best team doesn't necessarily get there, but the deepest team might be able to be the one that prevails this year. So that depth is going to be key, especially when it gets to the playoff push. And I think that timeline probably allows players to return for the playoffs. But the thing with the playoffs is you got to get there first. So it'd be nice to have your internationals back for the playoffs, but if you're not there, then
it's interesting. Let's look at the Arrows lineup for um their last game against Rugby ATL. Um, they're
okay.
gonna probably have Cole Keith,
Yeah,
Andrew Quatrin, Lucas Rumball, Ross Brody,
Higgins,
Higgins, Ben Lesage, Patrick Parfrey,
Harfra,
Will Kelly, maybe.
yeah,
So that's seven guys. But then the hardest hit part for the Arrows will be at the prop position, losing Quatrin, losing Cole Keith, and then you still got Jack McRogers that can swap in at hooker. I mean, then they're running into their whole
well,
maybe.
yeah, but that's the thing though, right? It's like if Quattrin goes, then I hope Jack McRogers' cardio is good. Um,
Yeah. I mean, he already played an 80
oh
minute game this year.
yeah, but
This year.
he's got yeah, like yeah,
Um,
Quattrin being gone would hurt. Quattrin deserves to go, so I mean that's
yeah.
that's just something that the Arrows might have to deal with.
Who knows? They might
Um,
bring both of them. Like that's the scary thing, right? Is McRogers has played really well this season, but like my point I'm bringing up is I think that the Arrows have, again, it's a long time from now. Like we've
oh,
got 2 months from now. But we've got some depth in some of those key positions. We do have some guys like Colby Francis, Siaki Vikilani once he's coming back from the injury reserve.
hey, he
Um,
was at the November camp too, man. He might
yeah,
who knows
he
where
might
he
be
could go.
going to.
Yeah,
But
there's
like
it
Marcello
depends.
Wainwright
It'll be interesting to see how Kingsley Jones goes about picking this squad.
picking these guys.
It'll also be very interesting to see how like Gary Gold goes about picking his squad too, because this like the fact that it's like you're probably not really getting like a full camp to like what they're used to, right? Because like the Major League Rugby season in a normal year, is
Is done by now.
designed to, or at least the intention designing the schedule into 2020 was like that the season would be done before the test window. Everybody
Mhm.
Every
Everyone should
player
be
finishes
available.
the season, then you can go do your international camp, and then you can go to play your test matches against whoever. But this year it's like they don't really have that, so it's going to be kind of interesting. It'll almost be like, I feel like this is kind of also it'll be closer to like watching like how Hockey Canada picks like their teams, where
For the
it's
world.
literally just like the coaches are just like, we just will scout and watch NHL games and be like, who's playing the best in the NHL games, and we stick them together and hope it works out. Um,
For sure.
right,
And
because
y
that's
my
kind
my
of
my
what you have to
point
go
of
on.
bringing up this whole lineup thing is I don't think that the Arrows are, again, injury permitting,
Yeah,
maybe they sign some guys. I don't think that they're in that rough of a shape. Like, I think they've got guys that they've picked up and guys that have been coming off the benches and stuff like that that could fill in those key spots. And then even if you look at like some of those their important like positions, you got Cortez, De La Vega, Diana, Adams, Montero, Tuculet, Mieres, Levis. Like you've got a lot of international guys that aren't going to be capped for these games
no, yeah,
that are going to slot in. Now, again, I don't know what Uruguay's doing with their qualifier situation. That might be later in the summer as well, so we might not have to worry about it. But it is it's exciting to kind of actually have something to look forward to for the Canada Senior Men's Rugby program. Now my question to you is, who is somebody that you're excited to maybe be a bolter on this squad? We've seen a couple young Canadians in MLR. We've got a couple of young Canadians overseas that are kind of making their impressions in the top 14 in other leagues. Who's someone that we might not have seen maybe from the World Cup that you have your radar on? You kind of mentioned one guy already in Gilani, but
yeah. I think if you're looking overseas right now, Persillier and Duguid, who I think Duguid had his second straight top
second
14
straight start.
start in the top
Like
14.
he was paired with a French like starter and
Yeah, I mean, I think
Willemese. Like
yeah, I think
that's
if you're a Canadian rugby fan for internationals, like those two guys are like the 1A, 1B of like your hope right now. I think yeah, I mean, I don't even really know if I need to elaborate on this. I mean, how is the answer not Priscilla and Duguid right now? As far as like MLR guys go though, I think Quinn Nawadi on Rooney right now. I think he's making a real good case to put himself into selection for a squad in the summer.
mhm.
And man, there's a lot of Canadians that have been playing quite well. I just
Yeah, like Lockie Kratz. I really want to see how the rest of his season goes
yeah, yeah,
because
he's had a good
that's
first two
me
games in Major League Rugby. That and no Nawadi though, like even like in this loss again, like he's always one of Rooney's like top guys for like meters carried. He's doing well to like make his tackles, and it's he's been impressive, kind of has that ability to now, I guess the ability now to play more than one position too, so that versatility is nice. um I like I think that's kind of where I'm at, as like I think at the stage where Rugby Canada is, I want to see like some of those new guys, the younger guys, get
for sure,
shots at at earning like spots, whether it's like just for the World Cup qualifiers against the United States, or like kind of like a more big picture kind of 4-year plan
for
idea.
sure.
But
Yeah, it is a shame with the Olympics being postponed to this year that we don't have some of those young sevens players who are crossovers from the 15s program not playing. Like Brock Webster is someone that I've kind of been really excited to see in a 15s program since his days with the U20s, and he's been part of the sevens program for a long period of time. Um, I always kind of seen him and Will Kelly as being the two guys that are going to kind of battle it out for that Canada 10 jersey for the foreseeable future. Um, so I'm sad that with the way the things line up, he's not going to be able to take part. Same thing with Andrew Coe and Theo Sauter. I loved Theo Sauter when he was with the Arrows and also with Rugby Canada. Prior to the World Cup, Andrew Coe I think is just an incredible finisher. We saw it at the World Cup; he can get it done. I want to see what he can do again for the 15s program. I wish that Cole Davis was getting more of an opportunity, honestly, with Austin, because I really liked what I saw from him at the beginning of the season, and I think that he was just a casualty of some bad games from Austin, and since then, hasn't really gotten a whole much more of an opportunity. Maybe he's just, maybe I don't know what the coaching decision is. I don't know if it's effort. There were some injuries as well at wing. Um, they seem to reward some guys based on, you know, performances coming off the bench or previous games. So hopefully we'll see
That's, I
Cole
mean,
again in the lineup because
with Austin too, like Jeff Hassler's status now becomes a lot more interesting, knowing that there's some big international test matches lined up
yeah, for sure.
for the
And
summer too.
looking
So,
at their the Gilgroni's Instagram, it looks like he still has a brace on his arm. So
oh yeah, I
might not
haven't.
see him. Yeah, yeah.
Is that from today or?
From today, yeah, they were. You know what? They might have been posting old video, but
Mhm.
on their feed today, they were sharing some videos of them doing some fun kind of like promo stuff, and he was still wearing a cast. So
Yeah, I think.
hopefully we'll.
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting. It'll definitely be interesting to see. Like, I think there's both the excitement of playing legit like the tier one nations of Wales and England. Who might be down some of their Lions guys, but beyond the Lions guys, it's going to be like the full proper Wales and England, right? Not like an England A or anything, but just um outside
Like
of
some
the
of the
line.
lineups people were making for like for like England is just like, oh my god, like damn, this is gonna
They're
this
going
is
to be
gonna
good,
hurt
man. It's
so
still
bad.
England.
Yeah,
It's
it's
still
still
England,
England.
especially like I mean, when we talk about some of the cuts, it's like yeah, they're going to have like Kyle Sinclair and probably
Yeah,
Billy Vinapolo or
yeah,
something too.
and Marcus Smith,
Yeah, no,
who just
they're England.
absolutely had the game of his life over the weekend.
They went to the World Cup final, Dan. They're pretty good.
Yeah, they're pretty damn good. And
Pretty
then
good.
the other team is the Six
Re-
Nations champs.
Here though,
So
realistically though, I think like is not the most fascinating, like maybe not the most fascinating story, but Rob Howley's first test match is going to be against Wales.
mhm.
Like his first test match with Canada is going to be against Wales. That's like
So when people talk about and I want people to remember this when we talk about the impact of international coaches coming into programs like Canada, this is why I want people to remember that like that's what you get. That's one of the benefits of having guys that have been part of other national programs are international coaches. Like they're going to bring in these relationships so we have opportunities to play teams like England and Wales. I mean, part of what Wales said was their relationship with Rob and Kingsley is
Jones.
one of the reasons why they did this.
You see
Um,
what Eddie Jones said in the Rugby Canada press
no, I
release?
did not.
He was talking about how big of a rival, how Canada is a traditional rival for England.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, they used to do the Churchill Cup all the time.
Are we a
So
rival for England, though, Dan? Or are we a team
traditional,
that they just
traditional can mean decades, Derek, and not currently,
what
but
England beats
traditional.
us? England beats us so bad we still have the Queen on our money. Like,
No, we're just like the lazy layabout sons that just were forced to move
I
out.
just I liked how I
That's the
just like
best
how
analogy I
I
find
just like how
about
Eddie Jones apparently views us in the same light as like Ireland and France and
that.
it's
But that
like
doesn't bode well for us. It means that they're going to be motivated, which is horrifying thought.
yeah, there we go.
One of the sad things that at least for Derek, Stu, and I that we got as a tidbit about uh, these um, these test matches is that the England match was going to be in Toronto before COVID got its greasy little
Didn't we
hands
kind
into
of
the
know that though?
situation.
Like it wasn't the original
We
plan.
did, but like, it was now confirmed by
I'm just
Rugby
sad that it
Canada.
was in Toronto, man.
Yeah, because we could have gone to that, and that would have been
Is,
awesome. And
is there anything stopping us from going to Wales right now?
yeah, money.
Well, other than money?
Oh, other than the
Other than
fact that
money,
I would have to
global
pay
pandemic and travel
hundreds of
restrictions?
dollars when I would probably only have to pay like a fraction of that.
Yeah,
I don't even remember what my tickets were for against Leinster, like
you're a big time podcast host,
$100.
Dan. Like why?
Oh yeah,
I'm
yeah, raking in the
breaking,
dough in my
right?
yeah, that's exactly it. All right. Well, you know what? Let's move on after that
I see that
ridiculous
jersey
claim.
collection behind you, man. I know you got money.
Um part of my student membership dues
Student
Stole
membership
that from
dues.
my
Yeah, that's a
club.
lot of money, Dan.
Yeah, like that's student debt. Gift, and I bought the one at the Wolfpack game. So okay, maybe 2 out of the 5 I paid for myself. So you're almost right.
There you go. That's that Quinn Nawadi jersey. Still looking sharp behind there.
All right. Well, we've delayed talking about this heartbreaker of a game long enough, Derek. So let's get into this.
Well, I didn't delay this. Our initial plan was
I've
we
been
were going to
delaying
start
this.
talking about the Arrows game, and then you just for somehow derailed it with curling, which I'm sure everybody loves. Curling, the Lions, the test matches.
All
What else
important
did
news
you do?
you need to
What
hear
else do you
about.
want to derail it? Shall we humble brag that the Toronto Maple Leafs are officially the best hockey team in Canada now?
Yes, very much so. I
Yeah,
think
there
that's
it goes.
hilarious.
Exactly. Toronto Maple Leafs, best hockey team in Canada. We'll
Humble brag to all you Western Canadians listening to this. Sorry about your luck about Vancouver and Calgary.
who have to play the most meaningless hockey.
Yeah, like one of their games is at like 1 o'clock. What is the point? What is the point to any of these games? They're both eliminated from the playoffs. Like, save their poor bodies. Like
If
one of those
someone
teams was
throws a hit,
destroyed by COVID.
it's
Like,
like
freaking give them some time
it's gotta be
off.
one of those games where guys just be like, okay, like let's just no hits. No one gets hurt. Just,
All right, guys, this is an all-star game. Let's just
yeah, let's
not
just
hit each other.
no hits.
If we have a fight, let's do a fake fight like
Yeah.
Patrick Kane and John Scott from a few years ago. Let's take it easy peasy.
We got a tea time and what time's the game? 1 o'clock. We got a tea time at 5, boys. Let's go. Let's get out of here quick.
All right. Well, you know what? The Arrows lost, and it was a heartbreaker, 33-29. Boy, Derek, I'm still hurt about it. You know, like the Arrows this year have had some matches that have like been really disappointing. You know, I think back to that Utah game. That was a really disappointing game. The second half of their first game against Atlanta was disappointing. The 20 minutes where they lost to that 20-minute, you know,
10 minutes.
10 minutes gong show that was the LA game was disappointing. I don't think that this game really I don't think the Arrows did a whole lot that was bad. You know,
No.
we had a discussion on like our message about how like maybe the Arrows weren't reacting the most efficiently against Atlanta's rush defense, but
then
at the
that
end, the
conversation was
game,
at halftime.
and then
they
it's you
did.
know, so if they did, and which is great. If you look at the stats, like carrying meters, Atlanta had 75 more meters, and that again might come to the fact that they were kind of feeding Toronto their lunch at the
O'Keefe had
beginning of the game.
that big like
Big
quick
run,
turnover try.
which I want to talk about him later. But the Arrows had more line breaks. They handled their line out well. They had 3 more line out wins. They conceded only 1 more penalty than Atlanta. They held 54% of the possession. They made less tackles. Now I don't have tackles missed.
I have that. Do you want that?
Yeah, sure. Tell me how did now all I see right now is that Atlanta had to make 7 more tackles. What was their tackle percentage?
Yeah, so Atlanta had 137 tackles to Toronto's 130. Atlanta missed 21, Toronto missed 25. So if you're looking at a percentage, that's 87 for Atlanta and 84 for Toronto.
Okay. So yeah, like a 3% difference in tackles. So like that's not egregious. Now the big key here is that Atlanta had 57% of the
If you want to
territory.
add on to the tackles thing, Tommy Della Vega once again made the most tackles.
Yeah.
Wasn't 100% this time though, because Jason Dom ran over him for that one try. And so it wasn't 100% this time. Shepard was 100% with 11 tackles.
There you go.
So he
the
best tackle percentage. And then Retta Lingheis and Heaton both had 13 tackles for Rugby ATL.
Yeah. And then I think the big tell was the territory, which Atlanta had 57% of the territory. And again, that might be because of
the
first half where the Arrows could not get anything going other than their 2 kind of spark crazy tries that they got. So yeah, like I want to hear your opinion about this, Derek. But to me, yeah, that game really hurt, and I think that Manuel Diana is going to remember that game for the rest of his life because man, that was a really really bad decision at the end of the game. But I'm happy with the rebound that they had in the second half. It's just it was a bonehead decision that they
Oh,
had to pay for, and you know
is I see. Like, see, that's
he
the one
ran
thing.
away from his support. Like
See, here's my whole thing is like, I think sometimes in sports, like media fans, everyone's always just want to be like, "What did you do wrong on that play?" Without being willing to recognize the thing that the other team did right. On like, if you were like, did Diana run too far away from the support? Maybe, but Matt Heaton started in the same spot as Lucas Rumball. Ross Deacon started in the same spot. They were both in that scrum, and they beat Rumball and De La Vega and Roland or whoever else was in that scrum. They beat them over to Diana.
yeah, that's
Right.
fair. But like
It's a good
the
play, man.
commentators also talked about like you could see that the backs lineup was set for like a certain play, and Diana
Yeah.
didn't get that moving. Like that was it was on him that he was there was something that he was supposed to do that didn't happen. And then you're right. I like you got to give props to
That
Atlanta's defense
was
that
a
has
good
been
play.
there. That was there all game except for a good portion of the second half.
You know,
Like they put in the work to make that turnover happen. Which, but vice versa, we got to the blame needs to go somewhere, right? Like there at the end of the day, a mistake was made. On top of the fact that there was some extremely strong defense.
yeah, there was. I thought like the arrows. I think that was the one thing with that play. If we're just gonna, I mean, I guess we might as well start. We'll start with the end of the game,
Mhm.
because obviously we're gonna start with the ending of this game. Um, I thought the end of the game was really exciting. Like everything that happened after Taylor Adams got the go ahead penalty there. Um, but yeah, I thought like Toronto's defense throughout the game was great. Rugby ATL's defense throughout the game was great too.
Mhm.
Um, it's just one of those games where it's like the both teams really brought like the physicality, and it was tough for the for the offenses of both teams, man. Like there was a lot of time with the game kind of being played like sort of in the middle of the pitch where one team would try to attack and then they'd kick it away once they couldn't get anywhere. The other team would do the same thing. And I think like at the end of the game, right, like when Rugby ATL was down and they knew you can't kick it back to Toronto because you can't risk not being able to get the ball back. Like the Arrows defense was amazing, and you can just you know watch Rugby ATL just go backwards, right? Like the Arrows eventually, it was probably like what, a good 20-25 meters that the Arrows were able to push Rugby ATL
Yeah.
backwards. They ended up on the wrong side of the halfway line at one point. And then, Petzer, tried to run, and I think it was Spencer Jones and Tyler Rowland that had a really nice tackle that jarred the ball loose, created the knock on, which ultimately led to that scrum where, Diana as where Diana kind of, pulled out and ran a little too far away and allowed Heaton and Deacon to kind of get that steal. And then, but it was like it was really good defense for like that, like 3 minutes. It was exactly what you want. It put the Arrows in a position to win the game. And then I think that's the thing that I think would be like the disappointing element is that, after that Roland Jones tackle that forces that knock on with only like, what it would have been like 45
Mhm.
seconds left with when that scrum
Yeah.
actually happened, something like that. And I thought, and it was just like, yeah, like you said, Diana does run too far away. I'm not really necessarily trying to say that he doesn't run away from the support, but
No, I think you're right
I don't
though,
think it's
and
the only
it's
problem with that.
no, and I
But
think you're right, and I think
it's like it's a
I
good
wanna
play
go
from
back
it's a
to
good play from Heaton and Deacon
yeah,
still, but
I wanna go back to, um, the article that Brian Ray wrote about interviewing the Arrows, Chris
yeah, the press
Silverthorne and Lucas Rumble.
conference, yeah.
They talk about how physically exhausted they are,
Yeah.
and you saw it in Lucas Rumball in this second half. Like, he is putting his body on the line. He has been on the
No,
floor a
Lucas
lot the
Rumball's
last
been the
couple
best player
games.
on the team over the course of the year, I think.
And I think that what you mentioned about Heaton and Deacon being there first, I think it's the guys are exhausted. Almost every team has now had a bye week except for the Arrows.
And
I'm
San
trying to think,
Diego,
in San
weirdly enough.
Diego, which are the two teams that are like, I think probably need the bye week the most right now.
Yeah. Oh,
They gas and they
San
talk about that like,
Diego's just the amount of injuries that team
yeah,
has is
it's insane.
staggering.
They're bringing in former Eagles that like, haven't played high level rugby in a little bit. Like, it's starting to get,
They need to. They're like two more injuries away from just using tackling dummies.
yeah.
Like it's
Um, yeah. So I really don't think there's much more to say about that
the
finish.
yeah, the finish. Yeah, it was just
It is what it is.
good on Atlanta for you win the line out, which was something that they kind of struggled with throughout the game.
Yeah,
De La Vega especially kind of was causing a lot of mayhem for them. So
for sure.
like they did manage to win it and then kind of grinded it out, and it's Deacon eventually hopped over man of the match performance with only 15 minutes of work, so a bit of an efficient night for Mr. Deacon.
So Derek, my question to you now is, um, what was something that worked well for the Arrows? I think we talked about how they changed their, and for me, one of the big things is, again, we mentioned it already, the change in their strategy in terms of dealing with Rugby ATL's rush defense is a big one for
Yeah.
me. Is that it really seemed that their tactical kicking and just the way how they're getting the Arrows have their best success when they are kicking their tactical kicking is on point, and when they're getting the ball out wide and using those strong wingers and backs to move the ball around and stretch the defense. Because when you're stretching that defense, especially with a team like Rugby ATL, they're not going to be able to get you know their rush defense set as quickly,
Yeah.
and also they're going to have to spread evenly. And when you have rush defense, you need to have two other guys or three other guys with you on that line, and I think that they did a much better job with that in the second half, and it opened up opportunities for them.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the second half was definitely much better. The first half was tough because it was kind of a weird half in a way where Rugby ATL controlled most of the possession, most of the territory. Their defense, their line speed was unreal.
Yeah.
Like it was so fast.
Full credit to Rugby ATL in that sense. Like,
It was
it
amazing.
was it
That's
seemed
the
like every time, and I also think just like they're constant ruck arrivals as well. Like, it always seemed like Ross Brody was in distress trying to get that ball out of the ruck.
yeah. The Arrows quick ball percentage in this game was 46. Like it was like Marno Retta Langhais, Heaton. Like I think what helps make Rugby ATL so good at doing that too is it's like when they hit those rocks, man, like they hit them hard. Like it's not
Yeah, they're
fun.
not hitting it
Yeah.
just to like make a presence known. They're hitting it to try and cause a turnover.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. They hit hard, and I thought like the physicality that they brought in the first half. I think Rumball kind of alluded to it in the press conference too. Was like they weren't like I don't want to say them. I mean, go back and listen to what he actually said, but it was something that they kind of were surprised by a little bit. I think was like how physical they came out, like the line speed was amazing. Like I think that's probably one of the fastest defensive lines I think I've seen in an MLR game, and you know what? And I think, and it was interesting though too because it was like Toronto's two tries, which both came with Quattrin still in the bin, right? It was like they couldn't really get much going offensively in the first half, right? And their two tries were the Mike Shepard charge down, which apparently is Mike Shepard's specialty now. Just charge down tries. I don't he leads the league with two. I think as James DeLay said, don't think anybody else in the league has one. So good for Mike Shepard, man. You found your niche, carve it out, do it well. Charge down
And a
tries.
beautiful beard and charging down.
Yeah.
kicks for tries.
Hey man, it worked, but dude, man, you could see like after that try though, like guys like it's because especially Carl say because he was the guy that gave it up or whatever. It's like when they had the ball like within like their, behind their 10, it was like they were like hesitant to kind of like kick that out. It looked like it kind of gotten like a couple of the back three guys' heads a little bit. That they're gonna give up a try with that. And then obviously you had Ben Lesage's try too, which was a really like it was kind of a weird play because Montero kicks it over and then the ball kind of bobbles around a little bit. Carl Say scoops it up and then just throws like this horrible pass to, I guess, no one in particular, or like it was way too high to be to like the closest guy that was there. And then Levis just picks it up. Levis Mires. It's a nice try, but it was one of those. It was like one of the few times in the first half where Atlanta's
Yeah.
defense never got the chance to reset, right? And now, as I think that was part of like with their like how hard they were hitting the rucks. When Atlanta's defense reset, it took away like the moment they reset. That's when their line speed was able to be used to its fullest potential, and when it was that's when like they were able to stop Toronto's attack. And then I thought like Pete Smith's like attack structure and design in in the second half really kind of shined a little bit. I thought it was great. It was nice to see like how faced with a challenge, it's like the Toronto Arrows could like look at it and be like, all right, how are we adapting this attack? And as as they were talking about in that press
And
conference.
sorry, I gotta say, poor Derek, because Stu and I are like Chicken Little, like on the Facebook messengers going, "This is awful. Like that half was garbage. Like the Arrows didn't do anything. They have no way to react to that. They need to do this, this, and this." And Derek's like, you know, a little bit more level-headed, and he's trying to, be like, okay, well, it wasn't that bad. And we're like, what do you mean it wasn't bad? And he's just like, well, they got to do this. And we're like, yeah, but they need to do this. So I don't think anything that Stu and I said were wrong, but like we definitely were just, it was just a like a right off of like of an impulse. Like it was just off of our chest, like
This again though,
garbage spew.
I think what you guys were saying in that group chat though, it goes back to what I was saying with that Deanna play at the end of the game. It's like part of that you guys were like, oh, like the attack's not doing much. And I'm like, Rugby ATL's defense is playing very well right now.
Yeah,
Right. It's like it's not for a lack of trying or it's like like sometimes the other team's playing well and that's why you can't do what you want to do.
for
But
sure.
that's why I really enjoyed the second half though, especially the Taylor Adams chip kick over the top. Because Rugby ATL's line speed quickly looked like the Looney Tunes when they're trying to stop as they're running really fast.
Yeah.
And it's just a full pull up on the heels. It's got like the tire sweep thing. Yeah, that's what the entire Rugby ATL backline did when it looked like when they realized, oh, that ball's behind us all of a sudden. And Van Voot, full credit to Rory Van Voot, though, man. He made a full effort to try to get back on Mires. That was like he turned around real quick and took off.
For sure.
And that he almost got there. That would have been a hell of a tackle, um, but it was like I think though, if you kind of watch like the Arrows possessions after they did that, it
Mhm.
kind of like the Rugby ATL line speed wasn't quite the same after. It's like,
Well, they had second thoughts, right?
you put
Are
that
they gonna squib kick
in
this? Are
their
they
head.
gonna boot it? Are they gonna
Yeah,
stretch it wide? It became a more multifaceted offense,
attack.
which
Yeah,
really,
exactly. And
when you're doing rush, 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 it's you open yourself up in different ways. So
yeah,
yeah,
exactly. And
you're right.
they were able to use the kicking a little bit more, especially since as part of that line speed. Like I think you mentioned it earlier already, Dan. It's like, yeah, they put an extra guy up there, right? So that means there's space behind the line, right? So you can use that. And but then you would have like after they did that, it's like, yeah, like they started opening up, like, okay, we're gonna skip a couple of guys with passes, go out wide, inside balls to kind of
Yeah,
try to beat that line speed too. And a lot of that stuff started working. And like it almost worked really well because they got Tommy Della Vega on the wing with no defense, or like I guess they beat the overlap, right? And then it was just he stepped out of bounds, or you know, he st- he caught the ball with his heel on the touchline, and it's a game of inches sometimes, right? So like that could have maybe been a try there. Like, I mean, if that play goes on, like, it's a Arrows probably leave Atlanta with a win or stay in
Yeah.
Atlanta with a win, I guess. But
Yeah, so
so I thought
so
that did well. The other thing that I think did really well too, and I only really want to mention it because we've kind of been ripping on it a lot.
mhm.
Lineup was good.
Yeah,
The
lineup was
lineup
great.
was very good.
And again, they really struggled against, to me, and just going off of my memory now, it didn't seem like they had a very good game against Rugby ETL in the first game in the lineout. Again, someone
Oh, I could pull
please
that up
correct
for
me.
you.
Pull it up for me
Yeah,
while I'm kind of talking about it. And I think that they had a much better game today. I think that
yeah.
Flesh has been really really important in this lineout. Della Vega is continuing to
Della Vega
um,
had a couple steals.
be really
Um,
really impressive. I mean, man of the or part of the MLR Team of the Week. You know, he earned
Deserved.
that number 6 jersey. So yeah, very happy with his performance. So Derek, while you're looking that up, I want to say that I don't think we need to look on what needs improving this week because again, I think that there was just one bad decision that kept
Well,
the Arrows away from a win. What I want to look
there,
at though
there,
is
there's, I mean, there's always stuff that you can improve, though. I think the big thing right now for the Arrows is, it is kind of does feel like another game where it's like one of your halves is significantly better than your other half,
yeah, the
right?
full
So it's
8
like
minutes
you,
is
you
still
definitely got to work on that full, like, I guess, putting in, like, if the Arrows can put a full 80-minute performance together, I think we've seen like what a full, well, I mean, Rooney got to see what a full 80-minute Arrows performance looks like.
yeah,
It's like that's you're not coming close to touching it.
yeah.
Rooney Seattle got to see with the full 80 minutes, and it's like you're not gonna touch them if they're able to do that. Um, but yeah, I mean, and it's, yeah, I thought for the most part it was like I feel like I feel like this is one of those games where it's like, sometimes you really like you play bad and you like really like you lose, and you can look at the game and be like, mistake there, mistake there, mistake there. This needs to be better. This needs to be better. This needs to be better. Some games you just lose,
Yeah,
even if you
I
play right.
agree
And
with
it's like
you.
sometimes you sometimes both
I
teams
don't
play
come
well.
back. I don't have my point of saying is like I don't have a list like I did I get
Yeah,
with like the
sometimes
Utah loss or the first rugby ATL loss or their game against Nola
yeah.
last week. But what I do want to actually kind of
Here,
look at
while we're
is
on it, then, just because I did find it, it was almost the exact opposite. Funnily enough, uh, almost the exact opposite.
rugby ATL had the better lineup that day.
Oh, it's actually so close to being the exact opposite. Rugby ATL was at 94% with Toronto at 76.
Yeah.
And then on this weekend, Toronto had 94 and Rugby ATL was at 73.
Oh,
So it was almost the exact opposite
that's
game,
impressive.
actually.
All right, well there you go. Good job, Arrows. No, what I wanted to look at is kind of where the Arrows are at right now. I mean,
Hmm.
next week we will kind of also talk about the bye week that they're kind of going into because
Yeah. This is
but
technically the halfway point of the
this is the
Arrows.
halfway point of the season. Um and a lot of people are pulling comparisons to their 2019 season just in terms of just how the schedules worked
Yeah.
and it's their only really full season. So halfway through the season, the Arrows were 4-4 in 2019. They are currently 3-5, so one more loss um, compared to that season. Um, Reddit user Oddball Gentleman on MLR Rugby subthread has been consistently posting playoff odds um, using a program that he has kind of made himself. So again, take it with a grain of salt. But currently, the Arrows are in second last in the um, playoff picture. Now, again,
In
if
what, just the East?
just the East.
Is that
So,
because
and
they're in
again,
second last in the standings?
yeah, but it also shows like the rise in percentages based on like their wins and losses. Um, they stand at 17%, compared to, and again, the gap is a lot smaller compared to the West. I mean, Nola is number one, and they're at 58% chance of making the playoffs. So, if we go back to that 2019 season, very similar situation. I mean, Nola was at the top of the standings, and they didn't even make the playoffs, right?
That's
Like
so
that
true. I
was
forgot about that.
right. Like they were the
Well, yeah, because that
king.
was the year. It's like Nola was doing the LA thing. They were putting like 40 points up on
Mhm.
everybody. Their problem though was they were also allowing 40 points. So
The Arrows aren't in a great situation right now. Like I think no one can claim that.
I,
They can't claim that. They're talking about how this is a back against the wall moment.
you know,
This game against Houston is a must win, which in my opinion it is. If you drop the 3-6, I don't. You'd have to basically win out. They basically have to win out now.
yeah, it's literally the same
It's
situation.
literally
This that it was in 2019. It's identical. You got to
yeah.
win. You get like they hit because they hit their ninth game was against Nola at
Nola
home,
and they
the home
lost.
opener. They
They're
lost that
four
game,
and
and
five.
it was basically you need to win 7 in a row
Yeah.
to make the playoffs, and they did it.
Yeah, it's just a much different situation, and I think that the league, especially the Eastern Conference, is a lot harder than what the league was like in 2019.
See, I think how tight the East is
They're also
now is what I'm looking at it as like there's like no one I like Old Glory can make the playoffs still. Like without like I think I'm
I
not saying
think
they're
that
going to. I said they can. Um
they could, and like
it's like
I think
you
we're
are
at that
like
halfway point where I think we need to start getting more of a realistic picture
yeah. Like
and come to
Nola's at
terms
the
with where the Arrows are at right now.
yeah, Nola's at the top of the table because they tied.
Yeah,
That's it. That's the
yeah,
only reason. It's
and
not even
again,
because you won, it's because you didn't lose. Like that.
look back again. I'm going back to the sub threat from MLR. Look at the circle of parity.
No, yeah, it's
It's
it's amazing.
hilarious,
It's
like
amazing. It's amazing.
it's
But
amazing.
like I
So I
think
think that a lot of things can happen. I mean, again, Nola's games have
I think
most of
like
them have been
right
close,
now, yeah.
except against Rooney. Like they kind of throttled Rooney, but
Yeah.
and
Well, that's the thing though. It's like they're throttling Rooney, and it's like Toronto killed Rooney too, and then Rooney beats LA, and then
yeah,
like
Toronto beat
it's
Seattle,
all
and Seattle
beat yeah.
beat Utah, and Utah beat Toronto. Like
Yeah,
there
no,
are tons of
it's
little
crazy.
circles,
It's
and there's
crazy.
still teams that like they still haven't played Old Glory. They still haven't played the Free Jacks.
Yeah. I think
Those
that's
are going to be two real big question marks. They've never played them before.
well, I
Uh,
think I think that's the kind of the big thing though. It's like you kind of look at the standings right now, and I think we'll get a really clear picture of what it truly looks like after the Euros bye week, after everybody has a bye. But
for
like, I
sure.
mean, right now you have the Arrows are 5 points back of second, so you're only 5 points out
Mhm.
of a playoff spot. You're 6 points out of first. Like that can swing fast. We saw it. It's like the Arrows have already done this once this year. They've gone from like last to first, and now they're back down to fifth. Right, like that's how much like they've swung in the standings already this year.
Yeah, but the two losses in a row have really stung. Like,
Yeah, they lost 2 games in a row at the start of the season too, and then
yeah, and
coming
then
back up to first. It's been
but at the
it's been
same
a roller
like
coaster. The
I
East,
would be interested to see where the gap is in terms of points from where they when they had lost those first two to now. Because again, I feel like the gap is getting a little bit wider. I listen. I'm not saying that they're done.
no,
I
no,
don't want to
they're
say that.
far from.
I'm just saying that like it's
The big thing is too though is it's like it's so weird like the standings too where it's like you got New York at 5-2-0 with somehow with minus 39 point differential. But 5-2-0. It's bizarre. And
but
then
I
you have
mean
Toronto at 3 and
42
5 at plus.
differential. That one game against Nola really hurt them. It was like a
Oh yeah, that game against
30
Nola definitely
points
hurt them. But
difference almost.
that game didn't help Nola as much. They're like they have the third highest point differential.
Yeah.
Like it's I just think like I think the key thing though, like, all right, if we were to I'm gonna pull up the Arrow schedule here. Let's see what we got. If you want to go with an outlook. So the Arrows, we got Houston bye week at New England, and then we got San Diego in Atlanta. And then we got
Who are their remaining Western Conference teams? It's San Diego and Austin.
San Diego and Austin.
Ah, okay.
So I mean, like, or Houston, San Diego, and Austin because
Okay, sure. I'm sorry. I was
they play
thinking post
Houston this
bye
weekend.
week. Yeah, yeah.
So Houston, San Diego, Austin. So I mean, like this week you got to beat Houston. I mean, you got to beat everybody, but it's like I think
Are there
the
Western
interesting
Conference
thing.
games home games?
Sorry,
Are their games against Western Conference teams? Are they home games or are
they're
they away?
in Houston and in Austin, and then they got San Diego at home.
Okay.
Um,
So the big thing that they mentioned is that they're looking forward to not having to travel as much as well.
yeah, I think the interesting thing with Euro's schedule right now is that 3 of their next 4 games are against the Western Conference. And then
Yeah.
you close out and then and then you close out with, and then you close out with,
2 games against New England, 2
well, you
games
got the
Old
game against
Glory.
New England's mixed into that 3 out of the next 4.
Yeah.
Then you close out Nola, New York, Old Glory, New England.
Yeah.
That's how the season ends. So, I mean, like, the good thing is there, though, like, you can kind of I think if you're looking at that schedule, like, you're still fully in, like, your destinies in your hands, right? Like, you go in, you have these 3 games against the Western Conference teams. You win those games, you can put yourself in a good position, and then
Yeah.
you get to, if you wanna prove that you, deserve to be in the playoffs, what better way to do it than literally, like, run a gauntlet through the Eastern Conference and just knock off everybody one by one,
Yeah, and who knows?
right?
Like
So,
all the other teams could just go absolutely
who knows?
cannibal on each other and just keep on the parity up and no
Yeah,
one no one is a
it's
clear front runner, right? Like that's like
yeah,
Nola
it's
could
not
go
the
on a
West.
2 game
It's
losing streak.
definitely like the West. I mean,
It,
the West looks. I mean, L.A., Utah, Austin in the
yeah,
West.
that's
Like,
basically it. I mean, maybe yeah, it's crazy.
yeah,
All right, well, we also want to give one little shout out to a former Arrow who won something over the weekend, or at least the team that he's a part of won. Richie Asiata left the team to join the Queensland Reds, and and the Reds won this weekend, which is pretty awesome for Richie. Um,
Super rugby champs.
Congratulations, Richie.
Good for him, man. That's
We
cool.
miss him. I think
There you
I
go.
think the Arrows definitely miss him.
First former Arrow to win a Super Rugby championship.
Yeah, there you go. Um, yeah, so that was exciting stuff to see. Okay, let's talk about this chaos of a weekend in MLR because it was just absolutely wild. Let's start with Nola versus Houston, which was a really exciting game.
You want to start with Nola versus Houston instead of the obvious game that we should start with as
No,
LA
because I
native.
want to build. We got to build into it. I'm going based on how the games happened. Nola barely held on 28-26 against the SaberCats. Um, it was a pretty close game. Carrying meters, Nola had a bit more. Um, Houston had to kick the ball a lot more. Had like 200 more meters kicked.
Sounds like a Houston rugby game.
Yeah. uh, Nola had 11 line breaks to Houston 6.
Yeah.
Lineouts were pretty even. Penalties were pretty even. Even possession, 53-47. Um, Houston definitely had to make a lot more tackles, like 30 more tackles. I think that you just can contribute that to the way that Nola started the game and, you know, fed them their lunch for a little bit. And they held
Houston's
most of the
tackle
possession.
percentage
Well,
was below 80. This is
whose was?
Houston's was 79%.
Well,
It was like they had
that
to make a
sounds
lot of
about right.
tackles, but they probably could have
Missed a lot more.
made a couple more
Yeah.
would have been beneficial.
And at the end of the day, Nola had 60% of the territory.
Yeah.
So, like it sucks that they kind of let it happen. They pulled a Toronto and let the second half kind of come back and almost bite them in the arse. Um,
Almost got there.
Almost got there. And this is a really disappointing game for me because I really like Houston. I love Nick Boyer. I love him and Sam Windsor and Robbie Povey. They're kind of just this hive mind offense. And you
Yeah,
throw Taylor Howden in the Silver
they're
Fox.
yeah, Houston's offensive structure is kind of, I think we were kind of talking about it, like It's weird because it's like it almost feels like Sam Windsor plays fly half from while wearing a 12 jersey,
And,
and
like,
then
my question is
like
why? Like, is it, like, you can play a lot more deceptive plays from such
like
a structure like that?
I want to say it's like I don't know. I guess it's working for them, but I guess they're losing, so maybe it's not. But
Offensively, it's working great. They need to get a
they need,
off
yeah,
like,
their
they need a
defense.
defensive coach, like, to figure out what's going on with them.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. We saw Povey go back to fullback. Povey had an absolute dime to Balakenya on his first try, which Balakenya apparently didn't think was beautiful enough. So he was like, I'm gonna do this crazy chip kick to myself, have boy or chip kick Boyer over cover. How did Houston scored like two of the nicest tries on the weekend. Which I feel like is kind of like their thing. They
The
look
thing they
it's
just
like
scored
when Houston scores, it looks pretty at
which,
least.
like, going back, like, thinking about, like, kind of the way that they played in the previous seasons, it's like strong set piece and kick
Mhm.
points. Like, this is such a strange, like,
But even
change of
that though, like
pace.
Windsor's boot hasn't been as automatic as
Yeah.
we've come to expect. I feel like it's kind of the interesting thing is I feel like every kicker's kicking percentage has been knocked a little bit since you get nothing in front of the post. It's
Those guaranteed kicks doesn't
yeah,
it
like
yeah,
it's funny because it looks like it's like for the most part like it's kind of a little bit lower for everybody.
interesting.
Um,
All right, well, let's move on. The Free Jacks versus the Gilgronis. I don't know about you, Derek, but this game is going to be for me another one of those Gilgroni games, especially from the beginning of the season, where it's like they did not take advantage of their opportunities, especially at the beginning of the game. Um,
yeah, beginning of the game, end of the game, middle of the game.
like they just did not take.
Man, I think the one thing that kind of like stuck out for me from a Gilgroni perspective is, oh my God, Mooneyham is amazing. Like,
Oh yeah,
um,
yeah. Like he's.
dude, like he's gonna get capped at some point.
I would be really interested to
Like,
see if he goes to Dallas next year. Like if Dallas says, "Hey,
I mean, I don't
come
know.
play for us." I mean, like it's not like Austin doesn't have enough
I think
backs.
he trying to remember the stories around the draft. I think he wanted to stay in Texas or something, right? So I
So I
don't,
mean, maybe
but
maybe he goes back
there's three teams in
and
Texas though, so I guess he's got options.
yeah, he's got
Um,
options.
but yeah,
Anyways, it was
dude, he made some amazing plays, kind of just ball in hand down the wing. He looks good in defense. I know you were kind of talking about like Cole Davis maybe not playing as much, and it's like, well, this is why. This Mooneyham fella,
yeah, yeah. But I
like
mean, you got
he's playing
Putlick on the
well.
other wing. Like Frank Halal's been hurt. I mean, I don't know. It just seems like it's just even just kind of coming off the
Oh,
bench.
maybe
It seems a
Davis.
little,
Yeah, maybe there's something about Davis
yeah.
too that we just don't know at
We
this
don't
point.
know for sure, for sure.
What
Yeah, and again, I think we also need to give credit where it's due for the Free Jacks. Um, you mentioned it about rugby ATL. We tend to pick on the guys who don't do the thing, but instead we should probably maybe give credit to the people who did do the thing. And the Free Jacks managed to make some, 13 penalties to 9 penalties for the Free Jacks. So they made the Gilgronis make mistakes. And I mean, Josh Larson turning the ball over at the end of the game to win it. I mean, he's continuing to have a strong season. Um, it's going to be really interesting to see if he's still a part of Kingsley Jones's makeup for Rugby Canada. But these are two teams that I really enjoyed. Like, I've kind of asked to talk about them on the podcast because I enjoy watching both of these teams play. So
so yeah, for sure. So Josh Larson, I think if we got to highlight the Canadian performances, right? Josh Larson had an unreal game. He had the 16 tackles, which was the most in the game. He did it at 100%. He was at a ton of breakdowns, really high work rate, and he had the breakdown steal at the end of the game to actually basically.
I literally just said that. That means me you were not paying attention to what I said.
Oh, it's because I'm looking at all the other.
Ah, Derek.
Um, I do that too on my like other hockey podcasts or whatever. Guys complain. The other two guys complain that I do that all the time. They'll say something, and I'll just be like, I'll just repeat exactly what they said.
Yeah, like
So yeah, Dan, good point, man. There we go. Josh Larson
it was
did
a
well.
great
Um, what did you think of New England never engaging the maul?
I don't know. It's interesting. I think that it's a gamble because like if they call if they don't call your bluff and then they just drive it down your throat, it's going to
Hmm.
be. I mean, obviously they won the game, so
Yeah.
it worked. I think it's again, it's a little too risky for my taste,
Yeah,
but
see, like, I was just like, I don't like it just because I'm kind of like, that just seems like, I don't know. It almost just kind of seems like if you're worried that like you can't defend it almost. It's
yeah,
almost like you're concerned that you're not gonna like or whatever. And then
whoever they're going to play next is going to absolutely use them all to their advantage just
yeah,
because of
like it
seeing
almost it
that.
almost strikes like, but that's the other thing though. It's like I think you made a great point there. It's like it's weird. Like I don't really like it when teams like intentionally don't engage in the mall. Just because it's like it almost feels just like a spirit of the game thing almost. But like
Hmm,
at the end of the day, you're allowed to not do that.
yeah,
And New England won. So
yeah,
I
they
mean,
won.
it's it's maybe not the most exciting tactic, but I guess it worked out for them. Um,
Okay,
but yeah, I don't know.
uh,
I feel like it's just one of those things that's like, yeah, I'd rather. I mean, New England's lineout percentage was 79. I don't know. Maybe there's just. I mean, I don't know. Like maybe I'm not even really sure. Like it's just
it's
like
just a
Austin
strange.
had 90. It's just I don't know. It's just kind of like sometimes it's just kind of like it's weird just watching guys stand still, being like, "I hope you bump into me, so it's obstruction." Ha ha ha. Like it's just I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, so Utah and Old Glory had a tri fest. Um,
As always,
well, I shouldn't say that. Really, they only scored well. Going, I don't think that's right. How many do you have their stats up? Because to me, it says three tries for each team, and I feel like there was more than that. Going off of what the app says, but anyways, 34-33 was the final score. Doug Fraser had a great game, coming back from
Utah
injury.
had three like 410 Cruze, Whippy, penalty try. And then DC had Gibbons, Fanana, Schultz, Roberts, Tanana, and Frazier all got tries.
Okay, so more than what the app says. But Fraser finished off a nice play, so it's great to see Doug back. And Luke Campbell also came off of the bench, so great to see some Canadians back into the lineup for Old Glory.
I
Just didn't
like.
feel
I'm
right.
starting to really enjoy Luke Campbell being in lineouts near the microphones. Those are. If you haven't seen that, go back and watch those. Man, he's got some funny trying to throw the hooker off banter. It's a good time. I would go and watch it.
Uh, you know, it's so interesting that the scoreline went this way. I mean, the Warriors had 300 more meters.
Yeah,
They held 63% of the possession and 60% of the territory. Like their defense was not great if that was those were the stats and Old Glory was able to score that many points. I mean, they only gave up like Utah only gave up 5 penalties compared to Old Glory's 14 and
Old
full
Glory only
and
gave up. Old Glory only gave up six, or Utah only gave up like six line breaks. Tackle
yeah,
percentage is 83. Like it's not. I mean, 83. You probably want that to be a little bit higher, but it's not like miserable.
no, so I'm saying like what did the Utah Warriors defense do to give up so many tries or so many points?
Efficient. It's efficient.
That is some damn efficient offense from
I mean,
Old Glory.
that's the way. Like that's the way Old Glory plays though, right? If they roll off of Tusitala and Robertson being able to get you the quick ball out of the out of every
I
scrum
guess
and
so.
to catch you off your off balance,
It
off
was
your feet, right?
mighty damn impressive. All right, the big one, the one that shook the world of MLR. The Guillotines finally have lost, and ruining brackets around
Ruining brackets.
MLR,
Do we have
losing
regular season
18.
MLR brackets? Is that a thing?
Yeah, like the Super Brew, the Pick'ems.
Oh yeah. Oh, true. Is that a bracket though? Do we call that brackets?
I don't know, tournament competition, whatever. I don't know.
Uh, we picked this game wrong. The Toonie got it wrong too.
Oh, the Toonie, everyone got it wrong. Um,
No, Matt McCarthy. Gotta give him the shout out.
The guy from New York
Yeah,
who
hey.
broadcasts for Rooney picked Rooney. What?
Hey, he still said they'd beat him. So
He
I mean,
did.
hey,
Good for
you know what?
Mike.
If it's not, you got to give the man credit for sticking by the boys and believing in them at the very least. So good for him. Well done.
Yeah. Good.
Also
Yeah.
did a good job calling this game. It was entertaining. I
Yeah,
liked
it
it.
was good. I'm, you know what, I really have enjoyed seeing that broadcasting crew kind of
Yeah,
move
New
along
York's
throughout
good.
the
I've been
season.
enjoying the New York broadcast.
Love the setup, the kicking. I laughed so hard when she missed that kick in at the halftime show, and like she's just like it's just this hilarious like swearing moment where they bleeped it. It was so funny.
Oh,
I don't know why.
I don't think I watched that.
It was funny. It was a
I'll
good
have to go
chuckle.
back and see
She's
that.
like Dan Holling said's teaching her to kick, and like she absolutely just toes it and just goes kind of
Ooh,
straight. She goes and like kind of swears. It's funny.
that's funny.
Um, but
Well,
yeah, like
Dan Holland said apparently a good person to teach you how to kick, though.
yeah, man, he scored all of Rugby United New York's points. Tough game for the Guillotines. I mean, people talk about the weather, but at the end of the day, I think Rooney just did a lot to frustrate them, and they made mistakes. And
The weather's the same for Rooney.
yeah, and really Rooney had 60% of the territory, had 53% of the possession. So they
But
had the possession
that's
battle.
not super unusual though, because like the Guiltinis have been winning games while not having the lion's share of possession or territory.
Yeah, but
They've
like
just
in
been
this,
like their
they had
attack is
they only had 5 line breaks compared to they normally have like double or sometimes triple that. And
no, yeah, for sure. It's like the
I
attack.
think that's a pretty telling stat there.
Yeah,
And the
no,
tackles, they almost
Rooney,
had to make 200 tackles against Rooney.
yeah, Rooney's defense showed up, man. Like, and yeah, well, LA's defense is also really good. I
Yes, I
think
mean
the stat
they
that
didn't
shows
give up
that
a try.
LA's defense is good in this game. Yeah, exactly. No tries, right? Um, LA too, man. Like they had 90% tackles made again. They're over 90. Like it's I think like the interesting thing in this game is it's like LA's defense was good. New York couldn't score on LA. Like New York took advantage of the penalties that LA gave up, right? It's like LA
Yeah,
and fair play to being able to recognize like your game plan and your strategy and just be like, all right, if they give up a penalty and Holland sends a range, we'll go for points. And that worked out really well for them. But like I don't think you're gonna win a whole like I don't think there's gonna be too many other games this
where
year
you
or
could win
next
that way
year where LA loses to a team that doesn't score a try. Um,
for sure.
but
And
I think
we gotta also mention our boy DTH for scoring another really nice
oh,
try. I
man,
mean,
man. Oh,
DTH is there's
closing in
people
on your
just
boy Ducky
please.
Fife for that league lead.
He's like people are like, please come back to Canada. Please play some international rugby just because he's playing so well. He's
Yes,
having
he's
the
playing.
time of his life. And I think part of that is also look at the team is kind of surrounded in the
Yeah, hey
playmakers that
man,
he's
you
with.
have
You
some
know, I don't think that you're gonna get something like that in with Rugby Canada. So there's only so many Matt Gittows and Addie Ashton Coopers and
yeah. Oh man, yeah, like there's another just great
Ryan James.
Lindsay Stevens too, like with the little
Yeah.
Canadian to Canadian link up in that the
So
build up.
also
Lindsay
I want to
Stevens kind
ask
of
you a
really good.
question. He's been playing really well, and I feel like do people not like talking about him because he's just kind of recently announced he's Canadian eligible? I always see people talk about like lineups and stuff like that, and when they're talking about Canadian players, they never mention him. So I don't know. I always find that interesting. So if someone can
Not really
privately message me
I think
and explain that to me, I think that he had a great game. I
I
love
think
that.
until he gets capped though, does he have a cap? I don't
I don't think he does.
but it's like, yeah, he's got an American and an Australian passport. I mean, he's not making the Wallabies, but he's got some options for him anyways. But I think he said
Yeah,
he wants to play for Canada. So that's where I kind of go off of. And I mean, yeah, like I think he's playing well. I think
yeah,
like Quatrin and Howard I've kind of emerged as like these are the hookers for Canada going forward.
yeah. And
Um,
it's been really interesting seeing Howard not start as much for Nola as well. So
Pat O'Toole's playing damn good rugby though,
I mean,
man.
yeah, he's a
Yeah,
pretty on
it's
par player. I think his performance against Toronto,
very good.
I thought that he
I
was going to
think,
get starting spot.
dude, honestly, in a weird way, I think the Canadian guys, stepped
Are
up a
asking,
little bit
please,
on
please,
Toronto.
please, yeah, please. I want to start against Toronto.
Yeah, no, not even
Like Corey Thomas started against Toronto.
Sorry?
Corey Thomas started against Toronto
Yeah.
when the
Yeah. Well,
Guillotines
Corey
played.
Thomas has been starting a lot of games for LA anyways.
Yeah,
That's another name that could probably get into the Rugby
yeah.
Canada mix too. Um, I think the one thing that really jumps out at this game, if you're kind of looking for some stats to be like, where did like Rugby United New York kind of help win this game? And the one trademark, um, I think, of the LA Guiltinis this season has been, how would you describe their play, Dan? If you had to use
Like electric. Like if we're in one word, like electric, like
Okay, I was gonna go with fast. I
spontaneous.
was looking for fast.
Oh,
I
okay.
was looking for fast, but electric, I like electric, that was good. But like, yeah, like they play really fast. Harrison Goddard, obviously, he can does an amazing job of getting the ball out quick. The LA Guiltini's quick ball percentage in this game out of the ruck was 46,
Whew.
which is a stark contrast from what they're used to. So shout out to Nate Brakely, who apparently just teleports from ruck to ruck, like a madman. Because he wreaked a lot of havoc at the breakdown, man, and caused a lot of problems for LA trying to do what they want to do and getting the ball out quickly. And like it was just no one's really been able to do that to LA yet, which I thought was interesting. And I think that was a big reason why they were able to come out on top in the game, is because LA wasn't able to play the brand of rugby that they're accustomed to playing, and that they typically would want to play, right?
Yeah,
Like, yeah. So Brakely, just for fun stats, had 46 total ruck arrivals in this game. Um,
that's crazy.
That's
Holy
not even
moly!
like his best I don't even think that's the most he's ever hit in a
No,
summer game either. Yeah, he had that, and then he had 2 breakdown steals, mixed in 9 tackles for his efforts too. Um, pretty nuts. Quinn Nawadi, like we said, he had another solid game himself, lots of carry meters. Um, DTH Vandermeer also had a ton of carry meters too. Um, Lindsey Stevens had a lot of ball carries, so he like just carries and the sheer number of carries. I mean, he's a hooker, so the meters from a hooker aren't necessarily that high. Um,
mm,
I think the interesting thing with this game though too was, I mean, maybe it was part of Nate Brakely and stuff doing, Nate Brakely and like Hermesize and those guys just doing some damage at the breakdown. But LA kind of wasn't really contesting breakdowns when they were on defense that much, like throughout the
it's
course of the
that
game.
prioritizing the defensive line,
Yeah, like they kind of did that.
and
But I thought the one thing though, like, and it's like they kind of did that, and I was like, yeah, like maybe it's a strategy thing early in the game. Um, but I was like, what I was really surprised with when it got down to the end of the game, like with like a minute or two left, and LA's down by 2 and New York had the ball, they still weren't like counter rucking at the end of
it's
the
got to be like that. Maybe their confidence is in dominant tackles and making a turnover there
yeah, but you
instead
gotta
of
like
at the ruck.
you would think though, with like knowing there's a minute left, like you have to try to get the ball at some point, right? Like
Yeah.
you can't, like, do you want to just rely on like, hopefully New York drops this with when we hit them hard.
Yeah, I mean, the
Like
the
it was
weather
just
conditions
I
weren't the
think I think
best,
it
and
was,
maybe they were just hoping on sloppy play. I don't know.
but
That is a really interesting kind of point, Derek. I
I
like
think like you compare that to what Atlanta did to Toronto, where it was like, oh, we got 30 seconds to get the ball back. First ruck,
everybody.
everyone's over.
Everybody's in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, and like that worked out well for them. It's just I don't know. I like
Let's not bring that up again.
yeah, no, I'm not trying
Oh,
to bring that up.
I hear you.
Yeah, I thought that was good. I mean, that was the end of the game. It was good. Nice call to go for the line out too instead of the points. But LA never got that opportunity. I feel like LA would be one of those teams that would go for tries too at the end of the game. I did. Oh, we shouldn't have brought it back up. I did really like that call from Scott or from Matt Heaton though, that was good. Don't go for ties, man. Go for wins. It's nice.
All right. Well, let's talk about the last game of the weekend. Seattle got their first home win of the season,
Mm-hmm.
beating a decrepit San Diego team 21-15. I mean, it was
Yep.
a pretty close game in terms of, I mean, like possession was San Diego had 51% of the possession, 54% of the territory. Seattle had to make more tackles. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the only big thing is San Diego had to conceded more penalties. Did not win as many lineouts as Seattle, and like it was a really close game because I mean the only other outlier is Seattle had 30 more meters carried.
Yeah.
The big difference I think I saw was in the difference between the new fly halves. Um,
Yeah.
Ala Timu for Seattle. I mean, he was the 10 of the week. Um, Seemed a lot more in control of his kicking and just his and also his passing distribution. And both of these tens were big boys. Like they were like you felt some of the impacts that they were making against each other, and also um, and maybe that might just be part of the conditioning. You know, both of these guys hadn't really played it a long time. I'm just pulling up the lineup for the Legion. Ty Inosa, you know, like it was I really feel for San Diego because they've got the pieces, you know, Cecil Africa, Ryan Mateus, Bjorn Bassoon has been a lot of fun to watch. Even guys like Cameron Clark, you know, he had the captain jersey now, and Collar Denishan um, has been a
Venetian's
saving
good,
grace.
man.
He's
That
been a
was
saving grace for them this
yeah. I
season.
was gonna say that is.
And
They
I
must
like
be
Larson.
so
I think
happy the
Larson,
Jackals aren't playing. There's no team that is happier about the
yeah.
Jackals not playing than San Diego right now, especially with
Um,
Augsburger out.
I like I think Larson was fine at 8. I think
Hmm.
Tomalau is still a better option at 8. I
Oh yeah,
liked yeah,
yeah.
Michael Smith had a good game. I think he had a good game.
Smith had a good game, but he did give up a lot of penalties. Though
Yeah,
like, personally, gave up a lot of
yeah,
penalties. Some of them, like some of them, are like like not releasing, which is you know that just might be again like a good defensive player, just like yeah, wrong
yeah.
place, wrong time, whatever. Um,
What
but
I'm really happy with is
some of them
that
were like incorrect, like mall entries or ruck entries from the
yeah.
side and stuff too. So I
So
mean,
just young
yeah, so
pussy
you'd probably like
mistakes.
to clean that up. I think you probably from your like a flanker too, you maybe want to see a bit of a higher tackle number, get a little bit more involved. But um, he got the full 80-minute shift though, so hopefully you get more of those.
I think
Hopefully
a lot of this it's
talk
all
talk to his
um
buddy Chris a little bit, get some
yeah.
players, and
Until Rob Shaw's until like, honestly though, until Rob Shaw's back,
yeah,
if he does come back, I mean he's training and rehabbing, so I mean who knows. But this is an interview. This is an audition to
yeah,
see if who they're gonna roll with post their, you know, uh guys some of the guys starting to come back. So hopefully Michael can impress a little bit more.
yeah.
Um
Uh,
for the
we
Seattle
have to
side of
change the
things,
hashtag now, though. Now that he's been freed,
yeah, no,
keep keep
hashtag
keep
keep
playing Mike
Michael
Smith.
Smith. Yeah.
Yeah,
For Seattle, for me, Derek, I'm really, really, really happy with Ross Neal being on the wing. Um,
yeah, it's been working out. Huh?
I said that Ross Neal would be my I don't remember if I said that he'd be my newcomer. I think I
Oh,
said he
because he
was be
played
my
last week. I think
MVP.
you called him as MVP. We're gonna
My
revisit that soon, by the way.
we will next week. But yeah, no, I thought that he would have the biggest impact for his team. And you know what? I didn't see it when he was playing center. I'm really seeing it on the wing. And not only is he scoring tries, but I think that he's just having a good all around a season. Unfortunately, Sears Duru had to pull out the last minute with injury. I think Jake Ilnicki coming on had a good game.
No other Canadians though.
No other Canadians. I, I don't know what's going
Yeah,
on with Nakai Penny. that's an interesting situation with him. I don't know if he's hurt or what, but
Yeah,
it was great to see
hasn't
Ben
been getting a lot of playing
Landry.
time.
Yeah, it's great to see Ben Landry back in MLR and playing with
Mhm.
the Seawolves. I really like watching Ben play. Yeah, sorry, I'm just thinking. I'm looking at the lineup. I mean, like, what does Tommy Clark have over Nakai Penny? You know, Nakai Penny was like playing out of his brains last season. So
Yeah,
hopefully, you know,
Duratalo's good. Um, Eric Deschel, like, I mean, he's always been a big impact player for them off the bench too.
yeah, I see what you're saying, but I still don't know if like even Deschel can make much more of an impact in a game than Nakai Penny can.
Yeah, I don't.
You're talking about a guy who's going to go into a ruck and make a big turnover or
Yeah,
carry some meters or
it'd be interesting. I think that'll be an interesting thing too coming up for some Canada camps. I think like before the season started, I think we were talking about if Penny can get into that discussion and you know not playing as much as he had, like
and
playing
then
little as
with
he
the
has.
recent play of Heaton and
But
Rumble,
it's
I
like
don't.
you kind of bounce that off with like you look at like Rumball. It's probably been arguably one of well, I wouldn't argue it. People might argue against me saying this, but Rumball's been the best player in the league, and like Heaton's playing excellent too. Like there's a lot of guys at that position. Like the guys that he would have to compete with at that position are playing like really out of their minds.
Really well.
Like,
Yeah.
so it's like good. And
Um
I mean, even you kind of mix into like Mike Smith, Mike Smith's, if he gets more playing time, it's like we'll see how much he improves too. And like, you know, um, you're going into like maybe even more back
and
rows.
Vicky Lonnie,
Like
who
when he comes, I want him to play so
I want to see him
badly.
play so
I know
badly.
that's
Ugh, so
I yeah.
badly.
Apparently it's close. Apparently, hopefully we'll see him soon.
Hopefully.
Um, but
But yeah, going back to Seattle, I liked Kieran Joyce coming in
yeah, he's been
at the 12. You know, I think he's been playing good at the 10 jersey. He's been kind of serviceable for them.
yeah.
Um,
That
but
SEMA
at 12,
injury
you can
hurts.
definitely see. I think at 12, you really see that that's his more
Yeah,
preferred position.
SEMA
He
injury.
likes running with that ball. I like what I saw of AJ Alatamiu. Um, you know, I think the funny little stat is that he had two breakdown steals on his four ruck arrivals. So he's 50-50 baby with the line the breakdown steals.
Picks his spots well.
Exactly. So yeah, good game for Seattle. God, is that bye week coming fast enough for San Diego? They got one more game. The rest of those
Man, yeah,
poor body.
they need
The injury update that
was sad.
Brian Ray that keeps on
It was
putting
just
up is
oh my gosh.
heartbreaking. It's like those sad like
Everybody.
commercials with puppies for like
I was impressed, man. I thought like especially Brian Ray did that on Twitter, which you probably could have saved some characters by just naming the guys that aren't hurt. But
all right, Derek, let's go into our next round of predictions.
mhm.
Going into this week, we all this week kind of took us all for a loop. You are currently sitting at 22, 20, and 1.
Yeah, I didn't have a good week.
No,
But who did? But who did?
nobody did.
Yeah. If you did, you're
The
lying. I don't believe you.
the Stu is
Unless you're
18,
Matt
20.
McCarthy because you picked
Actually,
New York.
Stu, I think Stu had the best. I think he had the best out of all of us. Stu,
Oh, what was he? 3-3?
yeah, I think so. I think he was 500. So he is 18, 24, and 1. I am the opposite of you. I'm 20, 22, and 1. And the Toonie is finally at 500. It's an 11-11.
Oh, well, Tooney's slipping. Tooney took San Diego, so
After you chirping us about how we were losing to the Toonie.
yeah. You still
We
are.
still are. It's just the gap has closed.
I mean, shall we let the people see what Stu and the Toonie picked first then?
Yes, of course. We've got a little bit of a video. Fantastic. Mr. Stu Hardy has recorded a little bit of a bit.
All right, guys, another week where I'm not here, but these are my predictions. So, game one, the Legion versus the Gold. even though the Legion are now much closer to home, I'm still going to say it's Nola Gold. I think Legion, what they really need is a bye week more than anything else. Okay, game 2, Houston versus Toronto. Now, Houston will be very bitter after that 2020 fixture where they could have won it at the death, but was held up over the line. And even though Houston have been playing much better this season, I'm still going to be back in the Arrows. I think they will be very hard done against the Rugby ATL. So they'll be wanting to go into their bye week with something on the positive side. So I am backing the Arrows. Austin versus New York. Now, New York obviously got a big victory against LA. However, this is Austin. It's at home. And Austin's defense has just been fantastic. I think a lot of the reason why New York was able to do so well was utilizing the elements at Cochrane Stadium. And I don't think it'll be the same at Bold. So I'm going to be back in Austin. ATL versus the Free Jacks. Now, this one I am a bit on the fence about. I think this one's going to be a really close contest. But I think the advantage is going to be with the actual home team, Atlanta. I think New England will put up a good fight, but I think it's the Rattlers will take this one. Now we have the big game at SoFi Stadium. It's the Giltinis versus the Warriors. And I think home advantage, even though it isn't technically their home, will benefit Los Angeles the most. Utah, I'm hoping, will put in a strong performance, but I think LA are also going to really want to show that they still have the capability to win games after their loss last week. So I'm going to be backing LA. And finally, DC versus Seattle. Now, DC obviously have been on a losing streak as of late, but this is their first home game in 3 weeks. So I think that they're going to have the edge. Seattle, while they did win their most recent game, I think DC are a much stronger team, much more put together team. And until we see all these big new names coming in for Seattle, I don't see them winning any of these games anytime soon. So I'm going to be back in DC. But I know you don't really care about my opinion. The one opinion you do care about is the toonie. So we're going to do the same thing again. Heads for home, tails for away. So, Legion versus Gold. The toonie is backing the Gold. Houston versus Toronto is going the way of Houston. Austin versus New York is going for New York. ATL versus the Free Jacks. And they are backing Rugby ATL. LA versus Utah. Controversial. Going with Utah. And finally, DC versus Seattle is going the way of DC. So, those are my picks. Those are the Toonies picks. Make of that what you will.
So, Derek, the first game we have is the Nola Gold versus the San Diego Legion.
I mean, Nola.
Yeah, it's
like, oh man, this roster's just so injury depleted. Like, I just don't. Oh man, I just feel bad for them really at this point.
Yeah, it's.
I
tough
gotta
one.
go. Yeah, I gotta go. I think you gotta go Nola on this.
And Nola's kind of riding high. They've had 2 close wins. They're probably feeling good.
Yeah, they're at home too, right?
No, it's in San
Diego.
Diego.
In San Diego. Ooh, interesting. Still Nola. Yeah. I don't know. I'll probably feel bad when San Diego wins on the weekend, but Nola.
All right, Toronto versus Houston.
Toronto, always Toronto.
Yeah, you know what? I
probably gonna be. I hope Houston wears yellow because it'll probably be the best jersey matchup of the season if they do.
If Houston had won that game against the Warriors. I feel more confident in Houston. You know, a little bit more fired up of a team, but I think that loss pretty much stung them hard. So I'm gonna go with Toronto, even though it's
You were gonna
at
go
home.
Toronto anyways.
I don't know. That last game hurt me, so I don't know.
Well,
All right, Rooney versus Austin. This is in Austin.
ooh,
This is
this
a
is a
toughie.
fun one. Bit
Yeah,
of a
this is a
tasty
toughie.
matchup.
I'm gonna go with Austin.
I will. Oh man, if their defense shows up like it did against LA, and I mean, I know people are all, some people are quick to point out that it wasn't necessarily the best LA roster that they could have put out there either. But you know what? If their defense shows up like that, if Nick Brakely decides he's going to hit 147 rucks, then yeah, I'll go. I think I'll back Rooney in this one.
Okay.
Listen, see if somebody can actually look like they're capable of pulling away in the East.
Yeah, this is yeah, exactly. Okay, this is gonna be a really important game, especially for the East. New England versus Rugby ATL, both coming off of very impressive game wins.
Who's at home?
I believe it is Rugby ATL, who have just announced that they're going to have 50% fans, 50% capacity fans.
Nice. That's good. Good for them. Glad to see the fans starting to pop back up. But yeah, I think I gotta go with Rugby ATL in this one. I think
I'm picking Rugby ATL too. And also if they lose, I might feel a little bit better about it.
I mean, I just think
one of those win-win situations.
Yeah, like I think it's like their defense I think was really impressive. I like the way that Scott Lawrence has his team playing right now. It's
Yeah, I've been
fun
doing
to
a lot
watch,
of
man.
picking
That
for
line
teams.
speed. It'll be interesting to see like Austin or like the Free Jacks attack against that line speed.
Yeah,
It'd be interesting to see how they handle that too.
Yeah, because
See
Harrison
how
Boyle,
Dougie Fife handles that.
yeah, Harrison Boyle is a fly half who's not afraid to go into contact.
Yeah, so
He's a bigger boy. I think that's one of the things that kind of like really had a little bit of a hamper at the first half with the Arrows. Is Adams is a little bit smaller of a guy, and you know he's jukey and he's quick, but like the contact sometimes is a little bit more dominant just because of the size. I'd be interesting to see how Harrison Boyle handles it as being a bigger fly half.
See if guys like Retta Lingheis and Momsen let you get away with not engaging in the maul too.
Yeah, if any of the teams in the MLR, they are going to be the one that's going to say, "Hey, we are absolutely going to shove it down your throat. Not going to contest. All right, contest this." Okay, another really interesting game. Two of the top teams in the West, Utah versus LA.
I mean, despite them losing, I still think we're still in that territory of like, why would you ever pick against LA?
I don't know, man. LA or Utah has had some really good wins.
Then
loss against. Pardon me?
Then pick Utah.
Fudge. Here's the thing. Is I've been kicking myself because I've been picking games where I want one team to win, and it might not have been always the most like logical answer.
Oh, logic will always be LA.
Yeah, but what does my gut tell me? Shoot, I'm gonna pick LA because the next game I might go with my heart. All right, last game. Oh, maybe not. Okay, last game is Seattle versus Old Glory in DC with an earlier start time. It's going to be like 1 or 12 p.m. Eastern time, but like it's going to feel like 9 for Seattle.
Yeah.
Another early start. Cross country travel.
Seattle kind of getting the short end of the stick on some of these games.
Yeah, but then they're going to be like the Arrows where they're going to have almost all their games are going to be home games for the rest of the season.
They should start playing those at like 9 p.m. Pacific time. You know, put every team to sleep.
All right, Eastern Conference teams that come play us.
Yeah,
let's go. 10 o'clock kickstart.
They play like New York and have like guys start taking naps at halftime because it's like 1 a.m. now.
Everyone's getting espresso shots at halftime.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, who are you picking here? This is
Oh man, I think I gotta go with Old Glory just because the super early start time, which I mean, I guess is something that West Coast teams got to deal with anyways. But super early start time, and unless it's LA too, like the West has not been successful against the East.
no.
And I guess that's kind of got
We
ruined.
talked about it last week. I
That
pulled
kind
up
of
the
got ruined
stats.
this weekend too.
I think I actually still have them.
Yeah, that kind of got ruined this weekend too because New York beat LA. So
yeah,
it throws that wrench in.
Yeah. Oh boy. Well, Derek, that's all I got for tonight, buddy. Thank you for sitting down and talking some rugby with me. If you folks are looking,
happy to talk about some curling too that I definitely did not watch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, so before we end, actually, really interesting thing is you couldn't have watched it.
Oh
so
wow.
Like 10 people from the broadcasting team tested positive.
Oh, no way.
So like for almost all the games, I think you could only have watched 3 of Canada's games.
Oh, they just got the one healthy guy to put a camera on a tripod. And
no, like it was basically they had the social media manager for Curling Canada updating the games.
Oh wow.
So like you could not watch any of the games that week. So even if you wanted to, Derek, and you say it sarcastically, you wouldn't have been able to because of COVID.
Fair enough.
All right. Well, listen, folks, if you want to listen to more episodes of Rouge Rugby where I talk about curling or I don't talk about curling, it's up to you. You can find them on all of our social media pages. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. We have a YouTube channel where we post these on video format if you just want to look at our beautiful faces and our unshaven faces and our bad pandemic haircuts. Do so at your own pleasure. And also while you're there, please leave us a review on all your podcast platforms on YouTube. Let us know what you want to see more of. We're kind of going into the last game before the Arrows bye week, and hopefully we and the team can finish off this half of the season on a high and then get some rest.